Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. It is the Monday afternoon, right before the Monday Night Football game for NFL Week 15, Saints and the Lions. We're going to talk with professional sports bettor Teddy Covers, get some last-minute thoughts on these lines. Teddy, obviously the big lines news for this game is that the total was high, very high, and now has gotten bet higher. Right now I'm seeing 51.5 or 52 market-wide. That's up from 51. Maybe, the Sunday night game going over had something to do with that, but total's gotten bet up, and also the Detroit Lions, of course, have looked just kind of like a lost team. The Sharps bet them last week. The Sharps lost. They're now 4-9 against the spread overall on the year. Just kind of like just looking like the kind of team that makes you uncomfortable to bet on in any situation, and generally, probably if you bet against them, feeling pretty good about it. New Orleans minus 2.5 or 3 is the current spread. What's your take on this game, Teddy?
Yeah, and 2.5s are becoming prevalent. We've seen a lot of books move off the key number of 3 here on game day, and that's a surprise to me. It speaks a lot of the wise guy money that's been pouring in on the Lions.
Oh my God, Teddy, listen. Over the past, at least this year, or maybe the last 2 or 3 years, I think I've heard about more sharp action getting burned backing the Lions than any other team, maybe than all other teams combined. It just seems like there were so many times, so many weeks when I was told the Sharps were backing the Lions, and they win maybe 30% of the time.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm doing is explaining why the move has come.
Right. No, I understand.
That being said, I don't want any part of New Orleans tonight. Detroit's better than New Orleans, aren't they?
I'm sorry, what?
I said, I don't want any part of New Orleans tonight. The Lions are better than the Saints, aren't they?
No, but I mean, the New Orleans looked pretty decent in their win last week. Obviously, they've had problems.
You didn't watch the game if you're saying New Orleans looked decent. Tampa stunk.
Right.
And if you looked at all the quotes after the game, Lovie Smith saying, our team stunk. We didn't play well on offense. Our defense was atrocious. Our special teams was worse.
Right. I'm just saying that
I think Tampa. It wasn't New Orleans looking good.
On any given week, though, I think you can expect something roughly like that from Detroit. The Sharps faded New Orleans last week, and the Sharps got burned there. I'm just saying, which team at this point in the season right now makes me more scared to bet on between the Saints and the Lions? Definitely would be the Lions for me. I'm not saying I want to bet on either one, but definitely I'm more scared of betting on the Lions than the Saints right now. I backed the Saints successfully. I took the Saints at home against the Panthers, and I cashed with that. And the Lions just seems like every time I've bet them this year was also when there was reported sharp money on it, and just like they've lost almost every time.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not trying to cross-examine you, Peter, by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just going to get a little conversational flow here between us.
Right.
Of course, that's the beauty of sports betting, is that you're allowed to have opinions. There is no, certainly before kickoff, there is no right answer per se. Although there's a lot of times that you think something's the right answer. But, for me, you have to take what happened yesterday into account. And what happened yesterday, the books had their worst NFL Sunday of the season.
Right.
By a pretty wide margin.
Right.
All the public favorites covered, every one of them. You look at Green Bay covered, and we saw New England cover, and we saw Seattle cover, and we saw Cincinnati cover, and the books took an absolute bath. And this isn't my first rodeo. I've been in Vegas since 1998, and I've seen plenty of bad NFL Sunday for the sports books. One thing that I'm not willing to do is back a public favorite on Monday night after the books took a beating all weekend. I'm just not willing to do it. A priori, I'm looking at this game, Lions or pass. Mm-hmm. And then when you look at the Lions, I mean, again, everyone falls in love with offense. Defense matters. Mm-hmm. The Saints' defense isn't bad. It's the worst.
Right.
They're dead last in the NFL in every category. They're dead last against the run. They're giving up 5 yards per rush. They're dead last against the pass. Opposing quarterbacks have a QB rating of 110 plus against New Orleans this season. The Lions have played fairly well in their step-up games, in their TV games. We saw them go to Seattle. They gave the Seahawks a real trouble. They would have won the game if it wasn't for a bad call at the end. We saw them on Thanksgiving Day against Philadelphia, what they did. And even the game that they lost to Green Bay on the Hail Mary, Detroit played well in a national TV affair. I would expect more of the same tonight. I could only take the Lions plus the points, but I don't even know if I want the points here. I'd rather have Detroit on the money line.
All right, well, it is a split line, 2.5 and 3. Teddy Covers, a priori, taking only Detroit or pass. And you have any opinion on the total? A very high total then has gotten bet higher.
And I don't have a strong opinion on the total by any stretch of the imagination, simply because these are two teams that play opposite styles. And yet we've seen, I mean, Detroit could cover in a high-scoring game. It wouldn't shock me. They could cover in a low-scoring game. It wouldn't shock me. New Orleans, you know, they won 24-17 last week. They're not going to win a lot of games when the scoring is in the 40s. So I think there is some correlation between the Saints and the over. I don't think the Saints are going to shut down Detroit tonight the way, let's say, St. Louis was able to do with the line of scrimmage last week. Saints have a modest correlation with the over. Lions, the side that I prefer, doesn't really correlate with either over or under, and it's not something that inherently I got a strong opinion on. So for me, the total is a pass.
All right, well, I'm leaning under on this one. Teddy Covers leading Detroit +3. I'm leaning under 52. Teddy Covers. Interesting thoughts, as always. Thanks so much.